What made you realize that the politicians in the US don't care if we spend the rest of our life in debt and/or die early due to this happening? This is a really dark post, but I realize this is the reality we live in, and there is often a power dichotomy where it can turn into either your predator or prey. And with the way our healthcare system is and medical expenses and debt, I realized it doesn't care what happens to people.
When it was suggested that every time they voted to give themselves raises, they raise the minimum wage as well, and they all laughed. Then, it was suggested that they give themselves the same benefits as the Affordable Care Act, and they all laughed.
The fact that they refuse to retire unless medically necessary or they die. Being that advanced in age, voting for things that are of zero benefit to younger generations, complaining about the good old times, etc. Makes you realize that you're not seen as peers, you're seen as the other. The only ones that matter are themselves, their families, and those who can be of benefit to them. Not us. Them. We don't really matter.
When they allowed students to take out FAFSA loans for school, but decided to charge compounding interest to ensure they continue to profit off your labor for 50 years. Simply paying income taxes after paying off the principal wasn't enough.
Reading the reasoning behind the formation of the Electoral College, reading the 14th Amendment and understanding the social mechanism behind debt. Civilizations that follow the logic of capitalism is the project of parasites that can't stand that they will one day die, but make it everyone else's problem.
The fact that when they get in power and have full control of government, there's always some excuse as to why they can't fulfill their promise. There's always one rogue senator who magically holds up the government in some way. Things which can be done by executive order are somehow impeded by someone. Yet the destructive actions are very easy to push through.
When they backstabbed Bernie during the Clinton election. He was polling incredibly well against Trump, gaining primary momentum, had ideas that were incredibly popular, and brought in a new base of progressive voters that have since turned Republican. The DNC ignored all that and had everyone drop out, punting their votes to Hillary. It was a disgusting reminder that for all their lip service, Democrats don't want progressive ideas despite their popularity. And every time they lose, they blame us, and not their shit-stained politics that paint them as Republican lights. Even this past election, they'd rather cozy up to fascists than run a candidate that leans socialist.
I grew up in the Reagan era. When Clinton came to power, I was a teenager and learning how the world works. I realized that Clinton and the people in power, no matter the party or side of the aisle, were all just tools of corporations and greed. I started learning about lobby groups and special interest groups and how money influences politics, and gave up hope 20+ years ago on the United States government looking out for anyone other than the bottom line for investors.
The fact that the rich easily gets tax breaks while student loan forgiveness is something to be debated. The fact that they'd rather you just die of illness than to make laws that ensures life-saving medicines are affordable. The fact that they are filled with old men who might as well be zombies. Which doesn't represent the nation. The fact that lobbying exists. The fact that you are pretty much railroaded to be forced to pick one of the two sides only, both of which never really represented public interest. The fact that religious institutions are getting a pass at making the most absurd things and they are being listened to. So much so that the notion of creationism taught in schools and 10 Commandments in schools isn't being just straight up called out and have their trash opinions thrown out is absurd, not to mention their discriminatory behaviors. The fact that none of the Boeing executives were arrested despite how they obviously caused the deaths of several. The fact that all money laundering charges on Panama Papers were acquitted. The fact that despite Epstein, someone who is in that list is able to run for presidency and in fact won. The fact that federal minimum wage remains unchanged. The fact that wait staff are still forced to rely on tips. The fact that there are homeless people. The fact that there are people who thinks that the environmental problems we face lies therein on the fault of the consumers, when in fact the fact that though alternatives exist, the distribution of products that destroy the environs are still much more distributed because it is more profitable. The fact that there are states where your employment can be ended at will. The fact that communism and socialism is demonized and discussed, while capitalism is being lauded as if it was some sort of meritocracy that it isn't. The fact that government officials are thriving on insider trades. The fact that despite how loathsome they are, I get banned when I honestly say what they deserve to get. Okay, enough. I think before I mass order torches and build a certain popular French device during their revolution.
There were several instances growing up where the actions of those elected to office really don't care about the working folk. Their actions showed that I was fed a line of bullshit from the civics teacher. What crystallized it for me was the entire healthcare debate during the early Clinton administration. When it was declared dead by the Senate in '94, it confirmed my doubts. The entire debate about the Affordable Care Act during the Obama administration was just a repeat performance, and how the administration caved and settled for what Heritage Foundation proposed to what was called Hillary Care was not surprising.
When you realize they only do the bidding of the donors. Both parties have the same donors. They always campaign on more or less the same platform, and never push any of these promises imlatot benefits their donors. They always have an excuse not to help the 99%, from rogue senators, to, it's not a priority / it's settled law, to, the parliamentarian said no. But when it's about bailing out the rich, sending weapons overseas so they can give money to their industrial military complex, $2 trillion tax cut for the rich, they all pass on a heartbeat. They all work together for the same goal of enriching themselves. I mean, do we for a second think the House of Lords in European monarchies have AF about pleasance? Hey everyone, thanks so much for sticking around until the end of the video. Your support really means the world to me. I truly appreciate you taking time out of your day to watch and engage with my content. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that thumbs up button and subscribe if you haven't already. I've got a lot more exciting content coming your way, so be sure to click the bell icon to stay updated.